Ultrakill, a game where you play a funny robot who desperately wants to collect blood. And using his vast arsenal and weird tricks, he generally does. But what if he couldn't use any of his guns, and he couldn't do any of his quirky little tricks like shooting coins or chaining electricity, and he was just forced to use his arm? So I took that thought and said, let's do it. But let's make it even harder. Let's put it on the difficulty I have never played before, Brutal. There are 3 rules for this challenge. Number 1, absolutely no forms of damage except punching, parrying, knuckle blaster, blast, basically any forms of arm damage is okay. Number 2 is that this has to be on a fresh save. I can't start with all the arms. I have to start with just the basic arm and get the arm upgrades along the way. Number 3 is that this must be on Brutal difficulty. And with all the rules covered, let's get right into it. Starting with the Prelude, there wasn't too much going on here. It was more me spending the entire layer getting adjusted to only having my fists and breaking old habits from having guns and finding weird little texts that barely work. The real challenge of this layer was Cerberus, who for a first boss was extremely chaotic, mainly due to his extremely high health and extra dash that he gets on Brutal. Even though he only has 1 parry, that isn't the hard part. It's more getting caught in an infinite death loop that makes this hard. But after quite a few attempts, I eventually got it. With Prelude done, it was time to go on to Limbo. Limbo would introduce the absolute worst enemy of the entire run, the drones. They are extremely mobile on Brutal. They will just straight up dodge your punches, so you have to do a weird little back and forth game with them and time your dashes to actually be able to hit them. If you're good enough, you'll parry their shot right as it comes out and instant kill them, elsewise it'll take 2 hits. Street cleaners were also a minor inconvenience, but they were kind of nullified once I got the red arm. Only in Limbo did I have to do a weird song and dance with them. Other than that, not too much of a problem. Overall, Limbo wasn't too much worse than Prelude. It was basically just the same stuff, a little bit harder. And now that I was adjusted, things are going a little bit quicker. Even Hideous Mass wasn't that bad. It was some weird parry angles, but that was basically it for him. Even V2 wasn't that bad. His bark was worse than his bite. I went in there thinking he was going to be quite the roadblock for the run because I'd never tried to parry anything from him before, but he wasn't too bad. He just didn't deal enough damage to really get me low enough to death. The only hard part was actually reflecting his shots back at him because he was so quick on Brutal that it was hard to flick to him. But other than that, Limbo was pretty easy. With our first upgrade quite literally in hand, it was time to move into Lust. Going into Lust, I didn't think it was going to be too much worse than the other 2 layers. Boy, was I wrong. two things just made Lust way harder than anything else, including Gluttony, with the first reason being the verticality of Lust. Not having the hook made it incredibly hard to get to some enemies sometimes, and it was a new experience having to find new ways to get to them without dying. And the second thing is that the enemy density is way higher in Lust. There's just more Maurices, more Cerberus, more of everything. Not even mentioning the new enemy, soldiers. They are super aggressive, want to be in your face all the time, and deal extremely high damage while having decently tight parry times. It was a whole new learning experience when I stepped into this layer. Thankfully, however, Mind Flayers were actually pretty easy, since the main way you fight them anyway is parrying. They were just a little bit more tanky than usual, but that's about it for them. But yeah, Limbo is the hardest layer to run. Even if you don't include the boss, who is more annoying than difficult, it was by far the one I spent the most time on, which probably should have been expected, honestly. That being said, Limbo had the weirdest boss of the run with Corpse of King Minos. It's not his second phase that's the weird part, it's the first phase. Second phase is easy. Second phase, you just parry his punches and hey, you're good to go. He's dead. Done. Easy. The first phase, you have to do the weirdest little song and dance I have ever seen in a game. And I would have never in a million years thought about this fight before I got to it. I don't know what I was thinking this was going to be like, but it was not this. Just look at this. Look at this! It wasn't hard. I died a few times, yeah, but it wasn't, like, hard. It was just weird. Other than that, though, it was, like, yeah, like I said, an easy boss. It's not that bad. With that absolutely odd boss gone, there was one layer left in the run, and that was Gluttony. To be completely honest with you, Gluttony was a pushover compared to Limbo. There wasn't like any verticality really. The hardest section, I think, was the end. At this point, I had basically already learned everything I needed to know, and became fully acclimated to having just my hand. So at this point, it was not that bad to really fight anything. It was more of a pushover level than anything else. However, Gluttony did have the first hard boss of the run in Gabriel. Just like many other parts of the run, I thought it wasn't going to be too bad. It was going to be easy or not that complicated because I had done it before. And I had done Gabriel a lot of times. This level I just like booting up and, fighting him. He's got a lot of parries. You'd think he would be that bad. That proved to be quite wrong, and I had quite literally the polar opposite experience with how I thought it was going to go. It was, well, just take a look.
Behold, the power of an angel! Your crime is existing.
Gabriel was the first boss in the run that made me get up and have to step away for a minute. Not because I was mad, but because I just needed a break. He was incredibly fast on Brutal compared to any other difficulty. He hit so much harder, and he had quite a few new angles to parry in, which threw me off so much from my usual rhythm of having fought him. But every attempt got closer and closer. So when I came back from my break, it was a clean run, got P rank first try, and that was the main game. Completely done.
You are less than nothing. Foolishness, machine. Foolishness. Thing? You insignificant fuck! This is not over! May your woes be many and your days few.
Now it was time to go back and P ranking the levels I didn't get first try. So, let's cue the montage.
Get on to rock, get up to burn, stand with the pride, ever feel your desire. One day I noticed that my life was broken. It was not me who was controlling this body. Oh, I want to know what's really real to me before it vanishes like a wave. Get on the rock, get up the burst, tell me the pride on me, the ways to make it. You must have heard it. Grasp the truth, hold it high, right fist, that's what this made to start with. You haven't heard it, girl. Don't be afraid to listen to your own heart. Big fat Sonic, that's my heart beating you.
With every level P ranked, I could finally move on to the final level of Act 1, P-1. P-1 would have the hardest boss of the entire run in the Flesh Prison. I didn't realize how much of a problem he was gonna be until I stepped in here. At first, I just wanted to try and kill him without the hook, see if I could get through all of Act 1 without needing to step into Act 2 at all. But that felt impossible. The mini Maurices just made living a whole lot harder, but there were so many eyes, and you have to be so careful running around that I just gave up and was like, okay, I'm gonna go get the hook. This feels way too hard. I can barely get to the eyes half the time. There's so many alive. So I just went and got the hook. However, I'm gonna save greed for the Act 2 video, so here's a very accurate depiction of what happened in Greed. Our final upgrade in hand, it was time to get back to the absolute pain train of Flesh Prison, and I can go a little bit more in depth in why he was so bad. So to preface this, I am not amazing at Ultrakill. I am mid at best. I haven't ever played Brutal before this, so that's why it was such a challenge. But this boss is the entire reason why I don't think this level is P rankable on Brutal if you're doing it with just your fist. It just has so much health. This one boss basically doubled the entire time of the run, and I'll tell you why. One is obviously the healing eyes. If you don't kill all the eyes, it heals. And usually they're pretty easy to kill. Obviously, you just shoot them, and even if they do get through, you can do enough damage to kind of offset it. But here, if one eye gets through, you've basically lost a full round of parries and damage. So it's just awful. You have to play so careful too, because you get practically one shot by half the things in there. So just running around the arena itself is extremely stressful, combined with having to watch the eyes, try and kill the eyes at the same time. Not even mentioning the mini Maurices that appear that like to shoot the big lasers that do one-shot you, if I remember correctly. But on top of it all, the Flesh Prison already has a lot of health in other difficulties, but on Brutal, he has so much health compared to anything we've fought so far. It is crazy. And to get a P rank on this level, you have to beat it in 3 minutes and 33 seconds at minimum. And I just do not think that's possible with how much health both the Flesh Prison and Minos have. Even with a strategy that I came up later, after many attempts, I was starting to give up. I thought this was it. I thought there's no way to get through this. It's just not happening. Like, there's too much going on. It's too hard. I thought the run was going to end here. Wasn't going to get to really see Act 2 at all, and I was just going to have to call it. But first, I wanted to try a new strategy, so I went to the drawing board and formulated a plan. Okay, so here's the plan. So let's assume that the Flesh Prison is this red dot in the middle, and we are the blue. What my plan was to run as close as possible to the area under the Flesh Prison, because something I noticed was that the mini Maurices, like big laser explosion, would pretty often kill the eyes if they were in range of them. So by staying close to the prison, it can also hit the prison and hit any eyes that are close to it in the air, since they try and stay close to you. And then something else I also noticed was that the Maurices can hit back the orbs that the Flesh Prison shoots out. And that is like by far the easiest way to get a crap ton of damage on it. Once I put this plan into play, things started going drastically better, to the point where I almost killed it on the third try back. And then a few more runs after that, I didn't kill it. And here's that run. And with the flesh prison done, there was one more fight left for Act 1. And a fellow fist user, Minos Prime.
Free at last. Oh, Gabriel. Now dawns thy reckoning, and thy gore shall glisten before the temples of man. Creature of steel, my gratitude upon thee for my freedom. But the crimes thy kind have committed against humanity are not forgotten. And thy punishment is death. this cold, dark world.
And with Minos done, that was it for Act 1. If you liked this video and like to see Act 2, please like and subscribe. It'd really help me out. Other than that, I'll see you in Act 2.